Hi, my name is Rolando Orellana. I work as an extension agent at UGA Cooperative Extension in Cobb County. We're excited that the summer is here. And with the summer, there's a lot of hot temperatures and a lot of disease problems with ornamentals and turf grasses. One of the things that we have to remember when we are doing maintenance for ornamentals is to lay out the mulch. Why mulch? There's a lot of evapotranspirations that happen during the summer due to the high temperatures. So the root system of the trees will actually be really glad that you're able to put some mulch to keep it cool down and retain some of the moisture that is needed. Other tips that it will be good for you is to water infrequently. Means don't water every other day or every day to keep the plants moisture. You can water deeply to 3 or 4 inches at once and wait for the next week to be able to water. It takes approximately 14 days for an inch of water to be consumed by the grass or any other ornamental plants. Many weeds love the summer. They love the summers because there's longer days and they have a lot of lights. And most of the summer weeds, they're sunlight driven. So they really get tall or big really quick, really fast. So that's another good thing about having moisture. There's another thing to having mulch. The mulch will keep those weed seeds from germinating and getting access to sunlight. The sunlight won't be there, so it won't germinate or grow tall really fast. Ornamental plants with flowers, when they're blooming time in the summer, they look beautiful. But make sure to remove these spent flowers because they can create some problems with diseases. So make sure that you remove all those withered flowers and give the plant a nice fresh appearance. Other garden tip for when you're doing irrigation or watering the plants, make sure that you don't water the leaves. Water the root system of the plants, the bottom part of the plants. Because if you water the leaves, when we have a lot of moisture problems in the leaves, and high temperature will be the ideal condition for fungus and bacteria that will eventually create diseases for your plants. Another garden tip that we can have for your lawn in your house will be that when you have higher temperatures and more dry months, one thing that you have to do to conserve water in your lawn is raise the height of your lawn when you're mowing. If you're mowing grass, Bermuda for example, at 2 inches, you should raise it to 2.5 inches so you can conserve some water. If you have fescue, you raise your mow from 4 inches to 5 inches or 4.5 inches. Some people like to keep their fescue down, but it can go from 3 inches to 3.5 or 4 inches to conserve some water. Another garden tip will be weed control. Weed control are more susceptible when they're smaller. So the best way to control is when they are little in their early stages. If you let them grow so much, they will produce seeds and eventually it will be a problem for you in your near future. So the best time to control will be when they're smaller. When you're controlling weeds, sometimes you have to live with the fact that you don't have to use a chemical control every time. Integrated pest management is the best options that you have. Sometimes you have to pull weeds. Sometimes the weeds will not going to be a problem because you have here and there one weeds. You will consider chemical treatment only when their problem is not able to control any other method like cultural or natural methods. Chemicals is a best control there is available, but it has to be restricted for a certain specific time or as a last measure to control of weeds. talking about your garden and maintenance your lawn, this season is the factor is very dry and it needs a lot of water. We need to consider that we have also a lot of diseases. This time it's very common to have large spots or brown patch and the longer on the lawns, and especially Bermuda, Soja, and fescue. But Bermuda right now is very, very common to have problems with dollar spot. There's also another problem. So how are we gonna get control and how many diseases and how we control all those problems? When you are doing control of diseases in lawn, one of the things that you have to do is proper ID the issues that you're having. And one of them is that you can send or bring samples to the cooperative extension for proper ID. If the extension agent can't ID because there's something unusual about that issue, it will be sent to the lab in Athens where a plant pathologist will look the sample and gonna give us a proper ID. Once you have ID the disease, and you can at that point control or make a decision what is the best control method. There is a lot of products in the market from a lot different companies that it will be offered to you as a solution of the problems. Not all of them will be for the same problem. So when you have any type of products, you have to read the label. So you read the label, it will tell you exactly what it's going to be used for. Let's say you're going to use any brand of product for brown patch, which is a bacterial disease. The problem there or the disease has to be listed in the label to be utilized, because some of the diseases probably look similar, but they're not produced by the same pathogen. So we have to make sure that we do a ID properly before you use any control. Some of the diseases can be controlled with less watering. Some other disease can be controlled with increasing fertilizations like nitrogen, like dollar spot. But some of them have a specific control method. So ID should be the most important first step to do when you're going to be controlling that. Another garden tip is, if you want healthy plants, you need healthy soil. Healthy soil is the key to maintain plants growing strong and healthy and be able to fight any diseases or problems with fertility. The fact that we have unhealthy soil with the pH that is not required for that particular crop or for that particular plant will affect the intake of elements from the soil. I will give you an example. If the pH is too high, there's going to be a lot of elements that are available in the soil, but they're not going to be available for the plant. So it can be, but if the pH is too low, too acid, a lot of the elements they will be leaching out, means they're not going to be there for the plants. And then so we have to raise the pH and amend the soil, adding more elements or nutrients to the soil so it can be uptaken by the plant. Normally the pH will be neutral for plants. It will be between 6.5 and 7.0 for most 80% of the plants in the world. But there are some soils that need to be slightly acid to be in good condition for that particular crop. We are talking about blueberries. Blueberries like pH from 4.5 to 5.5, means they're slightly acid. That's when they have a better intake of nutrients from the soil. If you water too much, the fact that there is a lot of draining and leaching out water, it can definitely affect the pH. So remember, don't overwater, water infrequently and deep. 2 or 3 inches of water should be sufficient for last at least 7 to 8 days. Okay, garden tips to do maintenance on soja grass. Soja grass is a beautiful grass and is very popular in Metro Atlanta right now. Actually, is the most utilized grass for residential purposes in the state of Georgia. It likes a lot of sun and actually likes a lot of water. One of the things that we have to understand that the soils in Georgia, we have the famous red clay. That soil doesn't drain as well as we would like to. So because the particles of clays are so small, the water can't penetrate as easy if it will be sandy soil or loamy soil. So if you want to have soja sod, you make sure you have to aerate once a year, once or twice a year, at least one time a year. The best months to do it will be June, July, and August, and possible in May. That's going to help with the air circulation. That's going to help with the soil removal so they can allow the root system to grow bigger and stronger so we can have healthy plants. If you're going to be reseeding soja grass, you're going to be utilizing approximately 1 to 2 pounds per 1,000 square feet. And that is normally what it takes to do reseeding. Sometimes you reseed when you have patches that have died due to diseases or mechanical issues. So you can do either resodding or you can do seeds. Seeds is going to take a little longer to reestablish, but it's going to be healthy also. The weed control is done in the spring. For soja grass, it's best to do pre-emergence and late winter, early spring, so we avoid all those weed seeds to germinate. And by the time the spring and the higher temperatures get here, there will be a big problem. So you put pre-emergent, and that should be enough to control for a lot of the broadleaf weed. Grassy weeds, you can control grassy weeds during the summertime. There is a range of products available in the market, so you can do it. That is going to have a good control for those weeds. Also, we would like to talk about Bermuda. Bermuda is another grass that is also very popular, and in my opinion, is one of the best grasses that is available in the market if you don't have much time to maintain it. Bermuda is a hardy grass. It reproduces by stolons, and it takes over eventually if it's healthy. So Bermuda is also the cheapest in the market. It ranges between $150 to $200 a pallet, which will cover around 500 square feet. Compared to soja or fescue, that will run between $250 and $300 per pallet that cover 500 square feet. So there's going to be $150, $200 difference there. Plus the maintenance in these two other grasses will be a lot more intense. Bermuda is the fact there's a very hardy grass will tolerate longer periods of drought. So probably not going to need as much water as fescue and Bermuda will need. Generally, detach is not needed in Bermuda grass if you do it proper maintenance. One thing you have to remember, thatch is always a problem in any grass. The issue is that we need to do it once a year, but if you are able to hold out the clippings, that's not going to be a problem. The fact that you can, when you mow the grass and you're going to leave the clippings, that's going to increase some thatch, but it also will circulate some nutrients. It needs some time for those clippings to degrade in the soil. So a lot of people like to avoid that waiting time and increase the fertilization by 30% when you're gonna remove those clippings from your turf. If you leave the clippings and you have a lot of other trash or other things in the grass, you will like or it's required to do core aeration once or twice a year. Bermuda needs approximately 2 to 4 pounds of nitrogen every year. It's because Bermuda has that very deep, intense green color that it has to be maintained throughout the year. A lot of other grasses will be stressed for water during the months of August and July. Not Bermuda. Bermuda will tolerate more and it's not gonna look stressed for water. So that's gonna be some money saving over there on your water bill. Sodding is one of the easiest way to plant Bermuda. It's also right now, due to the economic issues that we have in 2018, a lot of the growers that used to grow Bermuda went to grow different crops because Bermuda wasn't selling as much. So when the market and the landscape industry came back and it was demanding more Bermuda, a lot of the growers were already selling something else, and that drove the price of Bermuda a little high, and also had problems with the offer of Bermuda. So there is still some Bermuda out there, but it's just going to be a little more expensive. There is a lot of issues with weeds on Bermuda. There is a lot of problems with broadleaf weeds. There is a lot of products on the market you can use to control broadleaf weeds. Make sure that these products have dicamba and other ingredients that will help you to keep it under control. You can call your extension service in Cobb County so you can get instruction what is the best products that you'll have. I would like to talk to you about fescue. Fescue is the only cold season grass that we can have here in Georgia. We could try different varieties, but it's not going to do as good. Tall fescue is the only one who's going to have good results. Tall fescue used to be popular in 80s, 90s. It's not as popular. It's actually lose some popularity due to soja being available in the market. But water requirements for fescue are a little greater than the other turf grasses for homeowners. It's a beautiful grass that keeps its color year round, but it needs a lot of maintenance. It needs a lot of weeding. It doesn't grow or take over. It doesn't reproduce by rhizomes or stolons like the other grasses. So you have to do reseeding every year so you can have that nice green color and without patches that need some grass. The ideal pH for fescue will be 5.5 and 6.5. So mean the slightly acid. So when you do your soil test and you see that your fescue pH is between 5.5 and 6.0, maybe 5.5, that will be okay. There's nothing to do about it. If it's lower than 5.5, you probably need to add some limestone so you can correct it and raise it up a little bit. If it's higher than 6.5 or 7.0, then you need to put some sulfur so you can bring it down a little bit. Fescue requires, like most of the turf grasses, 1 inch of water per week. And you can do the aerations in the fall. It's different than you will do Bermuda or soja. The aeration can be done when it's actually growing in the summer or late spring. With fescue, you do it in the fall. The fall is the best time to do it. The best time to do reseeding on fescue will be in the fall too. You can also have another window to do reseeding in the spring But the best time to do it is the fall to have better results. You can do it again in the spring, but it will be better to do weed control pre-emergent in the spring than do reseeding. So you kind of have to make a decision what is the best bet. We suggest that do weed control pre-emergent in the spring and do core aeration reseeding in the fall. So a couple things to remember. Do not overwater your plants, ornamentals, or turf grass. Water 1 time a week, deeply, 3 or 4 inches, to avoid diseases and to keep the moisture really good throughout the plant. The other thing is, remember, do a soil test. There's no other way to have better plants than when you actually feed what they need, not too much or too little. Don't be one of those people that love their plants and their pets, that they feed them to death. There is a requirement for one of them. The best time to do it is with specific requirements for plants. The way to get your soil tests available will be to come to your local extension service, which is located at 678 South Cobb Drive, Suite 200 in Marietta, Georgia. The phone number is 770-528-4070, or come see us. Some of the times we'll be there available. Program assistants, extension agents, and extension personnel in general will be there to assist you. Thank you. My name is Rolando Orellana. Looking forward to see you next time. Bye-bye.
The land-grant university system was created to advance agricultural and mechanical sciences 150 plus years ago. And we realized that some of the research that was coming from out of the land grants, it was not reaching the people. So the Smith-Lever Act was passed 100 years ago. The purpose of that act was to create the Cooperative Extension Service, which was to take the research that was created by the land-grant universities and actually give it to the people who could use it.
And so that was the genesis for the creation of the Extension Service, or the Cooperative Extension Service, as it was called at that time. It was to take the research-based information from the university, from that land-grant school, and get it to the people who need it so that they could use it to improve their lives, their economy, and to improve agriculture.
Well, I lived on a farm until I went off to be in the Navy and to go to college. And my father was a very fine and aggressive farmer. And of course, the source of our advice when Daddy wanted to do something better or learn about a new species of peanut or cotton or corn was to go to the Extension Service. And they gave him whatever advice he needed. And it was just like a constant source of inspiration and advice and counsel, and sometimes correction when he was doing something wrong. And as I grew older and when I came back from the Navy and spent the next 17 years as a full-time farmer, I saw firsthand the great value of what the Extension Service offered to everyone in our county, not just farmers, but everybody in the merchants and others who did business with farmers and depended on agricultural income.
My earliest experience with the Cooperative Extension Service came as a result of joining the 4-H Club when I was probably in a middle school age group. They encouraged us to participate in competitions, and we had to learn our various project areas and make presentations in the local and the district competitions. And also, I began to show livestock as a part of my 4-H project and continued to do that for a number of years. So the Cooperative Extension Service and its supervision of 4-H was an important part of my younger years.
I serve Fulton County. It's a large county. We don't have that many farmers, but we have a lot of people. And we have a lot of families that just simply need help. So Extension brings that human touch to our community. We answer the questions directly. We give it to you in a manner that you can understand and you can use, and you can apply it immediately. So Extension is kind of like that friend next door. You may not talk to them every day, but you're really glad that they're there.
One of the advantages that we have is that we're always on the cutting edge of the newest information, the newest research that's coming out of the University of Georgia. And we are a direct source that our clients can come to find that information. We're a filter for that information, and we are able to explain it in a way that people can use it for practical everyday application, whether it's on the farm, in their families, or in their communities.
An increasingly important element of Georgia's and America's total production of food will have to be designed toward meeting the needs of our own country and other nations more than it has been in the past. So I think the gamut of influence of Extension Service, I don't think has been minimized in recent modern days, but I think the opportunities to expand their influence has been greatly increased now and I believe in the future.
I think the future for cooperative extension across the nation is very strong, and I know in our state it is.
The simple problems in agriculture have been solved, and they've been solved for the last 100 years or so. Only complex problems remain. Our researchers on our land-grant universities working in multidisciplinary teams will provide solutions for these complex and complicated problems. But how you transfer that information back to the farmer, back to the agribusiness, back to the family or the youth development specialists through 4-H is going to be very different. That's where cooperative extension has always been good. That's what their strength is, and that's where we see them being so important in the future.
We're continuing to see evolution in the production of agricultural products, and I expect that to continue. We will probably have fewer farms, but larger farms. And the Cooperative Extension Service certainly has a role to play in that new structure. They've adapted very well to the changing circumstances and the changing economy of our country over the last 100 years, and I have every reason to believe that they will continue to do that here in Georgia for the next 100 years.
The most rewarding part of my job is being able to help people and provide current research-based information for our clients. They come to us over and over for that information because they see us as the #1 source of information that they can rely upon, whether it's for their farm, their agribusiness, or for their families.
Real life changes. Extension brings real life changes, and being that agent in the community on the ground, being that agent to serve is a pretty miraculous thing.
In all the ways that I had an early developmental life in earning a living and learning how to live as a productive citizen, I would say the Extension Service had a major beneficial effect on me.